All right, everybody, it's time for my week 3 NFL predictions. I did not do weeks 2 and 1, and I admittedly missed out on the Thursday night game, but I just got this inspiration, and I'd like to do this and sort of track my progress and how I do with my picks. We're going to be using the lines and looking at the overs and unders as well. None of this is a recommendation, of course, and do what you will with regards to betting and where you put your money in those things. But let's start with the Browns and the New York Giants. Admittedly, I'm a Giants fan, and so it's extremely difficult for me to make these particular predictions. The line is at -6.5. Cleveland Browns are favored. Excuse me, getting a phone call. Cleveland Browns are favored by 6.5. My opinion, this line is a little bit juiced. I know the Giants are 0-2 and they have not looked good, but they did perform better last week against a Washington team with Jaden Daniels that is rejuvenated and revived. And I think they had a pretty competitive showing. And really, the only reason they lost is because their coach is too incompetent to have a backup plan for a kicker. So if that had happened, they actually would have won the game. And I think you would actually see this line being a little bit tighter, maybe around like 4.5, 5.5. That being said, Cleveland Browns are a strong team with a strong defense, and Deshaun Watson did look better last week. Um, I think the Giants will be competitive. I could see it being a bit of a defensive struggle, maybe taking a little bit of time before the Giants get their footing. I think the Giants will cover the spread. I think they'll be competitive enough, but I also believe the Browns will do enough to edge them. So Browns 19, Giants 17, and we will see how that goes. Next game, we have Denver Broncos versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay looking like a bit of a wagon right now. Baker Mayfield in his element, playing very competitively. They just outdueled the NFC champion competitors, Lions last week, and that was a phenomenal performance by Tampa Bay. Denver Broncos are in absolute shambles. They picked a quarterback in Bo Nix that many thought was not going to be a true NFL starter, and so far, not so good from him. It's very early, but that was a bit of a reach and perhaps a project that is not going to work out. The line there is -6.5. I think that is about right, and I could see the Bucks pulling away, elements of the Broncos defense keeping them from totally blowing it out, and the Broncos putting together a couple of drives. But overall, I think the Bucks will handily win that game. Next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is -1.5 for Pittsburgh on that one. This is going to be a close game. It's going to be a competitive game. The Chargers are absolutely revived and rejuvenated now that Brandon Staley is gone. The team looks like they are playing competitively and they want to win for Harbaugh. Steelers are always somehow in the mix, no matter how bad their quarterback play is. I could imagine the rejuvenated Chargers edging out the Steelers in this one of the games that the Steelers will end up dropping early in the season. Although I can see this going either way, and it is very tricky to bet against the Steelers. However, I am pretty confident this will be a low scoring game. I'm looking at that under there at 35.5, 36, and it is looking pretty tasty. So Chicago Bears versus the Indianapolis Colts. Chicago with its experimental quarterback, number one pick, Caleb Williams, and the Indianapolis Colts with their version of an experimental quarterback in Anthony Richardson. I say experimental because they are both sort of unorthodox, new age quarterbacks with their own styles and both unproven in the NFL. Indianapolis with some extremely sloppy play last week. Chicago with some sloppy play of their own. Indianapolis could not get it going. And Chicago also having a tremendous amount of trouble getting their offense going and really lots of penalties, lots of sloppy play, and a quarterback that is still trying to figure out his style in the NFL. Um, that being said, I think the defense of Chicago will be the story of the day and give them enough spark to stay in it. Maybe you get a drive or two out of Caleb Williams, maybe a defensive score. and the Chicago defense holding the somewhat inept thus far Indianapolis offense to a low score. Also, very much looking at the under on that game for anyone who is keeping track. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans. Um, that is -3 for Tennessee Titans on the books. Malik Willis, the starter, filling in for the injured Jordan Love. Um, and Will Levis with some absolutely stunning performances in a negative way. A couple of photos for the ages in the first couple of weeks, doing some really stunning things on offense, some things that we've never seen before in an offensive sense. I could see the Titans coming out ahead in this one. I'm not a believer in Malik Willis, although he did look fairly competent last week, and this is sort of a revenge game. I don't think he will go and get that revenge. I think Will Levis pieces it together and follows the script a little bit better this week and goes ahead and gets that victory. But I do not feel strongly about that game at all because the Packers do have a solid organization around them. But so do the Titans, though, so that's why this sort of goes back and forth. But I will leave it at that. Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints. This is an interesting one. The Saints absolutely surprising the NFL, setting all kinds of offensive records with Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, and the lot there. Philadelphia Eagles absolutely blowing it in their game last week against the Falcons, winning the whole game and then losing, just sort of giving up at the end and allowing a late touchdown drive and then not capping off their own drive to win the game. Stunning stuff out of Philly. I think they're a team with no coaching leadership. I don't think the team really cares to win for Nick Sirianni. Jalen Hurts tries to hold it together, but his stoic demeanor is not enough to spark the team. They need a true leader in the coaching front office, and they just don't have it. New Orleans, on the other hand, will continue their momentum and sort of roll to a large victory, and they will go up and down the field against a Philly defense that really is sort of seeming to not even be deserving to be on an NFL field these days. They are really shockingly bad and incompetent. So look for that to be fairly competitive, but I think New Orleans will just keep rolling it up and down the field while Philly falls behind. How I feel about that. Houston Texans versus the Minnesota Vikings. Again, Minnesota surprising Sam Darnold, very surprisingly good in the first part of the season here with JJ McCarthy unfortunately being out. Darnold has stepped up. Minnesota has an excellent defense. They talk a lot of smack and they back it up. Houston Texans are the really one of my favorite young teams in the NFL, up and coming young new head coach, solid defense. CJ Stroud just doing absolute savant stuff on the football field. Really fun to watch. I think this will be probably the best game, maybe this week, definitely out of the 1 p.m. slot. It'll be competitive. I think the quarterback play at the end of the day will edge it out for the Texans. Good defense is going back. It'll be a slog, but we will see some scoring. And I think the Texans will end up edging it out again, the quarterback play being the difference. Vikings defense not enough to contain CJ Stroud in that one. Next, Carolina Panthers versus the Las Vegas Raiders, as Chris Berman would say. Carolina Panthers off to an abysmal start. They've already benched their former first overall pick, Bryce Young. Just a franchise that's in absolute shambles, maybe the only franchise that is in more shambles than my New York Giants. And that is saying something. Las Vegas Raiders pulling out a shocker last week, beating the Baltimore Ravens. And that was absolutely stunning to watch. So Raiders putting it together with Gardner Minshew. Carolina Panthers going with their red rifle, Andy Dalton, who is in the latter half of his career and he has seen better days. Could look for a bit of a spark, some connection between Dalton and Adam Thielen there and Deontay Johnson. I would imagine a bit of a better offensive performance from the Raiders. Competitive early, but I think the Raiders are rolling and their defense is solid. Under Antonio Pierce, I think the Raiders they should win that game, even if it is looking competitive. at one point, and I maybe am even giving too much credit to the Panthers. But again, new quarterback, a little bit of spark. We will see. Miami Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa, Seattle Seahawks doing Seattle Seahawks thing. They've been solidly above average with Geno Smith. He has rejuvenated his career with Seattle Seahawks, but he has not proven that he can really break through to be that Super Bowl caliber champion quarterback just yet, although those that could certainly change. They look good early in the season. Miami did not even look particularly good when Tua was playing. Now with the backup quarterback in, I believe it's Skylar Thompson. I just don't see it being anything special. My hunch is that Seattle will go on to win this fairly easily, 30-17, outside of the spread. That is one I feel fairly confident about um, going into this week. Okay. San Francisco 49ers versus the Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles Rams with all kinds of injuries. Cooper Kupp, um, and Matthew Stafford is hobbling around. I don't think Cooper Kupp's going to play. Puka Nacua is injured as well. I don't know if he's going to play. San Fran dealing with their own share of injuries. There's injuries all over the place here. However, the San Francisco 49ers still in a better position overall. Los Angeles Rams, I think Stafford's time is pretty much done there. It's time for Stafford to retire. He's pretty much banged up every week and not able to perform at his best. And the team around him sort of reflecting that in that they are all sort of falling apart as well. So time for a new regime in Los Angeles, I think, and that will reflect a pretty easy win for San Francisco, a smattering of points put up by the Rams in a banged up matchup that should see some offense nonetheless. Although perhaps I'm getting a little bit too juiced up with the points here. But that's how I feel like I remember these matchups going, at least in recent times. Uh, Next, another interesting matchup. Arizona Cardinals surprising early on, although they showed signs of life last year in some strange moments. I like the coach there. Kyler Murray's rejuvenated his career so far, looking absolutely amazing in the stuff that he's doing. He's doing stuff on a football field that we've never seen before. Absolutely tremendous. The Lions are the brand new Lions still, even though they did lose to Tampa Bay. They got a bit shocked, shell shocked last week. I believe they can bounce back this week, sort of against a Arizona Cardinals that still feel like they're rebuilding something there, although they are, doing a pretty tremendous stuff on offense. I think this will be a high scoring game. I think the Lions will end up winning on a game-winning field goal, 33-30. Look for that over to get absolutely demolished in that one. Uh, Next, we just keep on rolling. We got the Baltimore Ravens versus the Dallas Cowboys. Another great matchup. Two solid teams, teams that need to win in this position. Cowboys dropping a game last week, and the Ravens starting the season 0-2. The Ravens, who had one of the best teams in NFL history last season, and that's absolutely a fact. Blowing it in the championship game versus the Chiefs. Lamar seeming to not be able to pull it together when it really counts, when the moment is there, sort of a bugaboo that he's going to have to get over. That being said, I think the Cowboys are not that good. And I think the a good sign is when you go back and start signing running backs like Ezekiel Elliott, who is, basically should be in a retirement home at this point and looks like he's running with jeans on most of the time. When you start signing players like that, it smells like desperation and it looks like desperation and the result is not good. So I think nonetheless, this could be a competitive game. One way or another, I believe the Ravens are going to win. They are in desperation mode. They have an excellent team, and Lamar is going to do Lamar things. So Ravens will win that one. Another good one, Kansas City Chiefs. Lots of good matchups this week, got to be honest. Kansas City Chiefs versus Atlanta Falcons on Sunday night. Um, Chiefs favored right now by 3 points. I think that this is a little bit of juice, a little bit of sauce on the Falcons for their comeback win against the Eagles. I think that was more of a collapse on the Eagles' part than a tremendous performance by the Falcons. Kirk Cousins still looking a little bit shaky. Something missing with the Falcons overall. They have a solid defense, I will admit. Um, but I just don't believe it yet. I think the Chiefs will not easily win this game, but I think they will not collapse like the Eagles did, and they should win this game with a healthy margin covering that spread, in my opinion. Okay, a couple more here. We're almost done. Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo right now sitting at -5, and I think Jacksonville is not good this year. I think the Bills, to put it simply, are good. I think Josh Allen is desperate for a championship. He is hungry for a Super Bowl, and nothing is going to stop him on his way to getting it. Trevor Lawrence looks inept so far and not worth the tremendous amount of money that he was paid. Look for the Bills to smack around and just absolutely demolish the Jags without really a little bit of competition there from the Jags. Bills by a lot in that one. And finally, Washington Commanders versus Cincinnati Bengals. I like the Commanders to cover in this one, actually. The Bengals had a atrocious start to the season where they lost to the Indianapolis Colts, I believe it was. And then they bounced back with a pretty stellar performance against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs pretty much get bailed out by the refs again. So Bengals coming into form, they are a championship caliber team. However, Washington with Jaden Daniels also rejuvenated. I don't think they are the same old Commanders, the same old Redskins or Commanders, however you want to look at it. I think this game will be competitive. That being said, the Bengals they should win in a close matchup that is separated by a field goal, more or less, but look for the Commanders to cover in that one, I think. So that does it for my week 3 picks. Again, minus the Thursday night game, although I'll be honest, I did pick that one correctly. I have the receipts, but who cares? So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And I will keep a running count of how I do, at least in sort of the spread covering department with these picks. So let me know what you guys think. And I will see you guys next week with the NFL. Peace.